Good afternoon, it's Wednesday, November 11. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. If you're watching online at onespotmedia.com, again, a special welcome to you. An age-old problem has again resurfaced in Montego Bay: rats. The St. James Health Department says it's because of the lack of maintenance of the People's Arcade in St. James, which is owned by the Jamaica Railway Corporation. The Health Department is now warning the Railway Corporation to take control of the property or face legal action. Prince Moore has details.
The St. James Health Department is again expressing concern about activities at the People's Arcade in Montego Bay, St. James, which could pose a major health crisis. In May last year, Chief Public Health Inspector for St. James, Lennox Lewis, blasted the Jamaica Railway Corporation, JRC, for its poor management of the People's Arcade. Mr. Lewis said there were several health concerns at the arcade which urgently need attention. Fast forward a year and 6 months later, not much improvement. The St. James Health Department parish manager says it's full time the JRC takes control of the facility.
There's a huge drain that runs on the perimeter, and we would have seen a blockage. And we have persons who cook in those areas, and we have seen a proliferation of rodents.
The poor management of the arcade also contributed to rats in the town, the country's tourist capital. Our news team reported that rats were in the transport center and the rodents even taking over the Area 1 police headquarters. The health department in 2019 had said that it could cost approximately $3 million to deal with the issue. That had led to then Mayor Homer Davis saying the bill should be sent to the Jamaica Railway Corporation, who has responsibility for the premises. Mr. Davis was furious as he said no matter the measure put in place to prevent a rodent infestation, the problem would return.
No sooner we put 500,000 to set some bins. By the next 2-3 months a year that the area is just totally infested with rats again. There must be something that can be done in a more drastic and a more severe way.
Mr. Wallace says if the JRC does not deal with the matter urgently, it will be taken to court.
I have advised the team to go in and to take the necessary actions to ensure that the parish of St. James is protected, and that we use whatever means, to include legal means, to ensure that this property is brought under at least minimum public health, medium public health act.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Opposition leader Mark Golding raised concerns on Tuesday that the sittings of the COVID-19 Parliamentary Committee have not been held since they were halted ahead of the September 3 general election. Mr. Golding says though the public health crisis has intensified since the elections, the committee meetings have not reconvened.
As a result, the opposition no longer has an inclusive voice in strategizing with the government in response to the pandemic crisis. I invite the government to reconsider the exclusion of the opposition in that way.
The committee was set up in March to oversee Jamaica's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the meantime, Mr. Golding is again calling for the Prime Minister to reinstate opposition chairmanship of some key parliamentary committees. There have been calls for the Prime Minister to reverse his decision, which allows government MPs to chair some of the committees.
The matter of reinstating the role of opposition members to chair select committees of Parliament remains unresolved. That convention was first implemented by former Prime Minister, Most Honourable Bruce Golding, in 2007, and it continued through 3 successive administrations until this current one. The Prime Minister's decision to depart from the convention and have government members chair all but 2 of the sessional committees has weakened parliamentary oversight of the executive.
Jamaica's COVID-19 death toll has increased to 225 as one more person has died from the respiratory illness. The deceased is a 55-year-old man from St. Mary. The Ministry of Health says one other death is under investigation. Meanwhile, 8 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed yesterday. The country's case count has increased to 9,581. Their ages range from 17 to 62 years. The Health Ministry says 73 persons remain hospitalized, with 4 being classified as critically ill. The country currently has 4,232 active cases. Help has come for 50 families who were cut off in Springfield, St. Catherine following heavy rains which lashed the island over the past 3 weeks. The residents are now expressing relief. O'Shane Masters has their story.
Yet another house literally on the edge, this time in St. Catherine, but that's not their only challenge. The residents say they had to endure being cut off for 2 weeks as a landslide blocked the only entrance and exit to the community. This was due to increased rainfall over the past few weeks due to the outer bands of Tropical Storm Eta. Councillor for the Above Rocks Division, Neil Powell, says over 50 families were cut off in the community. He says while efforts were made to have access granted to the community earlier, those efforts were hampered.
I brought a tractor from Kingston to alleviate the situation, but we could not succeed because the rain constantly falling, as we all know.
Mr. Powell says with a change in weather conditions since Monday, work has begun on regaining access to the community, but challenges abound.
What makes this exercise so tedious is one that the road is between two hills. So you're the embankment on both sides. So we don't have the privilege to use the surplus material that came down from the land slippage to dispose of it anywhere.
A resident of Springfield says the community being cut off was a challenge.
We couldn't come out, and when we come out, we have to climb up. We have to climb up in that yard and come up and walk on the edge to go up because the road muddy.
However, vehicular access has still not been granted.
Should it hurt staff that much, it's kind of difficult for vehicles. So what they're doing now, they are marling the road, come down while the tractor moving the debris, them as I say. So this is the way now people can be able to go back and forth now when they see able to clear.
The councillor says he will continue to do what he can despite the lack of resources.
I don't know where the resources is coming from, but I can't tell the people that I don't have any resource. I have to use the resources, if it's even my personal resources, because we cannot allow the people to be here suffering and call ourselves representative of the people.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Now, after weeks of wading in flood waters, residents of New Haven and adjoining communities in St. Andrew are seeing a glimmer of hope. It's believed that the cause of the stagnant water after the recent rains have been identified and are now being rectified. Like many other communities across Jamaica, the recent rains have left residents of New Haven and St. Andrew frustrated.
It's 3 weeks now we've been flooded. Houses, people lose them furniture, children getting sick because of the water even start to stink over there.
On Monday, the residents brought their plight to the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, taking the corporation's representatives on a tour of the area. The drains should empty into the Doheny River, which leads to the sea. But at the mouth of the river, overgrown shrubs and garbage.
This is what caused the flooding in over New Haven. Okay. You understand? Down here so black. You understand? So that make all of the water back in a New Haven.
There's not free flow of the Doheny River, so that's also impacting on the residents in New Haven. So we are here with heavy equipment, and we are cleaning the Doheny River.
On Tuesday, the KSAMC returned with heavy-duty equipment to clear the blockage. Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, says in addition to clearing the mouth of the river, work will also be done along the banks of the river and in the drains of the communities over the next few days. He anticipates that by the end of the week, the waters should have subsided. The move is a short-term plan to address the current situation. But with more rains in the forecast for this weekend, what is the long-term plan?
The long-term plan is for us to clean the Doheny River, that there is always free flow of water, and to maintain it, to ensure that it's always clean. And at the same time, the NAA is looking at redesigning certain sections where the Washington Boulevard gully meets the Doheny River. I believe there is some redesigning there to allow for easier flow of stormwater.
Mr. Williams says work is also ongoing in sections of Bull Bay in the east, which were also badly damaged by the rains. And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. More reports when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The Jamaica Teachers Association has so far given a passing grade to the phased face-to-face opening of schools. On Tuesday, 15 of the 17 schools selected to be part of the pilot project opened their doors to students. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Jasper Gabriel, says it was a success. However, he noted that there are some challenges. Based on pronouncement by both the Prime Minister and the Health Minister in relation to persons with comorbidities, Mr. Gabriel says a number of teachers involved in the pilot are facing that challenge which is brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The administrators are working through with these teachers in terms of how they can still be engaged in the process online. Of course, that now would revolve also around the connectivity available at the school and so that is one issue, but the administrators also have the option of making some shift in terms of timetabling arrangements to see how best they can work through those. Then there's also the issue of the issue has come up in terms of supervision of students, because for some of these teachers they had to be supervising students at home because they have not gone their kids have not gone back to school, and so that matter is also one that has come up as a point of concern.
The JTA president says a greater challenge exists as not all children will be able to attend physical classes due to circumstances beyond their control. He says a mechanism will have to be worked out so students who are physically in classes and those at home will benefit from the teaching learning experience. 36,000 students who are not on the program for advancement through health and education, PATH, are expected to receive electronic devices for virtual learning. This after the Education Ministry has outlined an Own Your Own Device program which aims to benefit needy students in primary and secondary schools across the island. Education Minister Favour Williams said the ministry will begin accepting applications on November 17 and close on December 4. In her presentation at the House of Representatives yesterday, Ms. Williams said students will be verified with the National Student Registration System and parents and guardians will be verified by way of Tax Administration Jamaica's website, or rather database. She said parents can apply through a special website for the program or application forms provided to members of Parliament.
Application forms should only be distributed to parents of students who are not on PATH. All areas of the form must be completed. Forms must not be copied or reprinted. Forms copied or reprinted will be rejected as these will not bear the security feature. Information from the application form must be uploaded on the oyod.educate.gov.jm website.
Mrs. Williams stated that if a parent or guardian is unable to upload the form to the website, then it should be sent to the Ministry of Education. She said approved persons will receive a $20,000 voucher which they can use towards purchasing a laptop or tablet computer.
The e-voucher will serve as proof of eligibility for the incentive program. Parents or guardians are asked to visit an approved vendor, and this information will be provided to complete the purchase of a tablet or laptop utilizing the e-voucher.
The site to submit application forms is oyod.educate.gov.jm. President of the St. Mary Chamber of Commerce, Frederick Young, is asking questions concerning the lack of progress in that parish. He pointed to the police station that's supposed to be built in Port Maria.
Ground has been broken about twice over the past 2 to 3 years. Some work has started, but it apparently stopped. So we will call upon the Minister of National Security to advise us, to assure us that this station will be built as it was outlined, and so we are waiting on him to see some work being done in a meaningful way.
Mr. Young also pointed to the agriculture sector, which has taken a major blow due to the impact of COVID-19. He argues that the virus has caused farmers to shift their focus to poultry rearing. This, he says, may have its own ripple effect. It's why he's encouraging poultry farmers to be mindful of a possible oversupply.
have to look at the demand and supply scenario. Is there a high need for poultry meat? Because almost every other person now with a vacant coop is putting in chicken. And so we want them to do this, but do it with caution. Have it checked out, seek your market, and then you can enter the market as it should.
Jamaica is again being lauded for having more women managers than any other country in the world. A study of 108 countries conducted by the International Labour Organization, ILO, found that 59.3% of company managers in Jamaica are women. In response, the Jamaica Stock Exchange has designed a leadership development series to discuss the gender parity in Jamaica. The JSE says while Jamaica is a world leader in this regard, there is still much work to be done. The JSE indicated that more needs to be done to educate and empower women to develop a competitive advantage at critical transition points in their careers. The Stock Exchange also highlighted that the evidence shows that firms with gender diversity at the top enjoy better financial performance than others. And it's Wednesday, so here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we'll look at COVID-19 and diabetes in children.
So looking down the road, the cost to the individual, to the family, to the community, and to the government's purse is going to be escalating because the cost of care, medications, hospitalization, etc., loss of work hours and productivity, all this is going to spiral down the road. And this is being facilitated by this pandemic, which has brought on this new approach to the lifestyle, or to the education style, etc.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Get more active by doing walks, playing ball or going to the park. Cut back on sugar by limiting sugar-sweetened drinks and juice. And limit screen time.
We go on to news in sports. A pay dispute between players and the Jamaica Football Federation, which threatened to affect the Reggae Boys' preparations for their 2 friendly internationals against Saudi Arabia, has been settled. As Simon Preston reports, the agreement came after a meeting between both parties on Tuesday.
The meeting took place on Tuesday afternoon at the Holiday Inn in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where players pushed for a 100% increase in their match fees, up from $1,000 initially proposed by the Michael Ricketts-led JFF. TVJ Sports reached out to a few national players, but they declined to comment on the record. Their only response was that the meeting went well. They have agreed to the new match fee of $2,000 for each player who takes the field for the games, while players who only feature on the bench will receive $1,500. This is in addition to the $100 per diems. Simpson described the proceedings as a discussion and not conflict.
I do not see it as a dispute. I see it as players and the JFF having a discussion with regards to what they believe their remuneration should be for these 2 particular games. The players had submitted a position, the JFF agreed on it. Hopefully that holds until this project is concluded.
Meanwhile, Ravel Morrison, who has now settled with the team, says he's excited by the quality in the squad and is looking forward to take the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously you've got players playing at the highest level. Do you know what I mean? In Europe, for like you got Bobby, you got Michael Hector, you got loads. You got there in the Premier League. You got Leon in Germany. It's obviously, like I said before, we've got a lot of talented players. So yeah, we should kick on really now.
The games are scheduled for November 14 and 17 at the Prince Faisal bin Fahad Stadium. Simon Preston reporting for TVJ Sports.
And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.